به مردم شریف ایران. من شهریار افشار هستم، میزبان شما در پالیتیکس 365. امروز یک هنرمند خیلی بزرگ به برنامه‌مون دعوت کردیم، خانم مونا شیخ. مونا یه استندآپ کامیک، پرودوسر، کانتنت پرودوسر در لس آنجلس و خیلی برنامه جالبی داره و از نظر یه خانومی که یه هنرمند در این زمینه، فارسی هم میتونه بخونه، اردو، عربی، چند تا هندی، چند تا زبون صحبت میکنه. واقعا اگه هیچ کاری دیگه نمیکرد اون مولتی کالچورال اکسپریانسش واقعا بی‌نظیره. اما استندآپ کامیک هم هست و یکی از دلایلی که من در این برنامه حتما میخواستم با هنرمندای ایرانی، خاورمیانه‌ای در تماس باشم و به توجه شما برسونم اینه که واقعا در این جنبش ملی، در تمام حوادثی که ما متاسفانه شاهدش بودیم این 1.5 سال اخیر، هنر مهمه و بتونیم به خودمون بخندیم، به فرهنگمون حالا تا اونجایی که میتونیم بخندیم، واقعا دل رو شاد میکنه. یه محیطی که اینقدر افسردگی توش زیاده، ناراحتی که توش زیاده در ایران، در خاورمیانه، مهمه که این افراد رو به اصطلاح سلبریت بکنیم و به نظر شما برسونیم و مخصوصا هنرمندایی که خانم هستن و در یه بیزینسی که خیلی از آقایون موفق شدن، خانومایی هم که تونستن موفق بشن که یه ریشه‌ای در ایران دارن یا در خاورمیانه، مهمه در این جنبش ملی همه این هنرها و همه این نظرها مهمه. خلاصه بقیه برنامه به انگلیسی تهیه خواهد شد، اما امیدوارم شما به همون اندازه که من انتظار دارم ازش لذت ببرین. Mona Sheikh, welcome to Politics 365. I know you're not necessarily a political commentator, but like I said in Farsi, politics is funny, and our culture is funny. And the more we are able to laugh at ourselves and our community, I think the more we can bear some of the difficult conversations and topics and environments we have to live in. I know you mentioned before the show, your grandfather is Iranian. You read Farsi. It's pretty impressive. Most people speak Farsi, but then can't read it, especially those of us that have been on the side of the pond for so long. But tell us about your journey, how you chose stand-up comedy, and how you kind of use your cultural background in your content.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for letting your audience know that I can read Farsi. That's great. I'm gonna put that on my Tinder profile here in Los Angeles because
you get a lot of dates that way.
We have a
I hear
giant
guys are looking for Farsi reading stand-up comics.
That's exactly what they're looking for, to bring to their moms to embarrass themselves. So then the parents can question themselves, like, where did I go wrong? Why? What happened? What happened?
Right.
I feel like my comedy, I've been doing comedy for about 14 years now, so it's been a little bit. And I just feel like, when you are an ethnic comic, and I had this conversation with Maz about this, that, when you are Iranian or you are South Asian or Middle Eastern or whatever, the expectation that a lot of the comedy clubs that they have, and even the audience, I would suppose, that the expectation is like, hey, we need you to speak about your background, right? Even if you're American born and raised, it's like, I need you to talk about your background, your experience, like your, particular, like this point of view of this like ethnic point of view. And yes, it does hold a great deal of truth to that, and I'm not denying that. But it's like Maz said this, and Maz was like, look, I'm just a comic who happens to be Iranian, right? And it's the same thing with me. I'm a comic who happens to be a mix of Iranian and Pakistani and Indian. Like, I just happen to be a mix of that, but I'm actually a stand-up comic, right? So I feel like our experiences and everything that we go through do make us stand out because, I mean, it's like it's a form of code switching, right? So like, in the black community, they talk about it like when you're among your family members and stuff, you speak a certain way, and when you're on the phone, you put on your white voice, like that's what you put on. Because so I feel like when we are at home, as ethnic people, our conduct is different, our demeanor is different, the things we say might be a lot different than when we go outside. So I feel like when you are ethnic in America, there is a certain level of code switching that happens. So, the kind of jokes that I would do, in an Iranian crowd or a South Asian or Middle Eastern crowd are, might be a lot different than the jokes that I do when I go to comedy clubs, right? So but I feel like it's all in addition to, it all is helpful in, I hate to use the word educational because I'm not here to educate people, but it is informative to be like, oh wow, what an interesting perspective. Like what an interesting way to grow up. It's like, oh, you didn't go up with, butt whooping, but I did. Oh wow. Okay, you didn't have that, I feel like some things do make a difference. That's why they do make you stand out. And the objective in comedy is, how do you stand out?
Right. No, it's true. I mean, we look like we're from somewhere else. So
For sure.
sometimes, not you as much, maybe I do, but
What? No,
sometimes,
this is a phase for homeland security. Are
yeah,
you
I
kidding
know.
me?
Secondary checks. Yeah,
We
I've
have
been
all been randomly selected. Let's be
randomly
real
selected
right
many
now.
times, many
Yes,
cavity searches I can't really go into,
that's
but
correct.
uh,
I
but
enjoyed those. I don't know about you, but
but people expect, and I think maybe that's different. I would like your opinion on this. In America and Europe, or if you're in Asia, in America, they expect you to educate them because a lot of them don't have a world perspective.
that's
A lot
right.
of Americans grow up here and they're limited. I don't want to cast aspersions, but it's the big joke. I grew up in America. I don't really have a world view. Ha ha ha. But in
That's
Europe, it's such a multicultural community. Asia, so
yep,
diverse. People maybe just accept you as you are, and
yep,
even though as soon as you get here, they brand you as American,
yes,
and maybe they expect you to lose your identity, and then to declare your own independence, as you said so well. You don't have to walk around with that image of I'm from Pakistan, Iran, whatever. You could just be who you are, and
right.
it's a diverse thing, and that's funny enough. Tell me a little bit. How did you decide on comedy? I mean, I'm always fascinated that decision to throw yourself out there and in nightclubs and just rough it, and so many years of toiling, as Seinfeld used to say, toiling. How did you jump into that world?
I wanted stability. So I got into comedy. I'm a former finance girl. I used to work on the trading floor in New
Oh
York
no.
City. And
Wow.
then my parents were like, "What happened? Like, why did you leave this amazing, stable thing to go do comedy?" I think for me, in 2008, when the market crashed, I mean, gosh, I lived in New York City. I saw Lehman Brothers, go belly up right in front of me. All these like Bear Stearns, all of them. Well, like went belly up right in front of my eyes because I was in that world. But I think it made me realize something. I was like, man, life is short. You can think that you're like young, you're in your 20s and stuff, but this is all like, this is just this constant battle. Like, I don't want to live this kind of lifestyle. Like, I want to live something that fulfills me. Like, it's nice to make money. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of cash. Just letting the universe know, big fan of money, big fan of Bitcoin and crypto. Just putting it out there.
Right.
But I wanted to do something that I loved and was passionate about. And then I was taking some acting classes at the time in New York City, and my acting coach told me that I was funny, and I was just like, I don't want to be funny. I want to be dramatic. And he goes, "Oh, he's like, you can still be funny." Like,
Had you not realized you're funny until someone told you? You had not a
yeah,
sense of,
I always knew. I always just crack jokes, and I just thought that was like my personality. I mean, gosh, you know this, Sharia. Like Iranians, like we don't grow up with this mentality of like, oh, you want to grow up to be a clown? Okay. Oh,
yeah,
good, good, yeah, yeah. Oh, let me
yeah,
encourage you to go out there. Our parents have expectations of us. They're like, I brought you seven seas across. I expect you to go to college. I expect you to make good money. I need you to get married. Like these are like expectations that are been put in place since we were kids, right?
right,
This.
right,
So
right.
it's like I'm
Sure.
preaching to the choir here.
Yeah.
But for me to kind of take this detour route and just be like, no, I want to do what fulfills me and like finding the individuality. And I think a lot of kids, like whether they're immigrants like myself or they're American born and raised, of Iranian or South Asian or Middle Eastern descent, kind of go through these conflicts, right? It's like, where do I belong? It's like, I'm
Right.
Iranian, I'm this, but I also have to go and function in American society and like blend in. So like where do I belong? What am I a more of? Am I an American or am I Iranian? Like what am I a more of? And just kind of constantly trying to find that balance can be really, and then in the meantime, you have your own individual self, right? That
Right.
your own spiritual journey that you're figuring out who is it that you are, what is it that what do you stand for, what are your values, right? So there's like these kind of battles that these are like internal battles that you're going through. You're trying to figure things out. But
Right.
I think for me, I just kind of reached a point where I was like, man, like I'm getting older. I just want to do things that make me happy. And I went and did my first my one of my coworkers told me, actually, she was just like, you should do stand up. And I was like, dude, I can't do stand up. And she was like, oh, you can do stand up. She's like, you tell me all these funny stories all the time. And I made the worst mistake of taking my mom to my first open.
Oh no.
Don't do that, people. If you wanna do comedy, don't do it the way I did it. It
Yeah. Yeah.
not, it was not good in the sense, like, looking back, it horrifies me to be like, who takes their mom?
Right.
Who takes their
Right.
conservative mother to
Right.
to an open mic? And,
Right.
my mom speaks English, but since she's not, of course, clearly as super fluent as, like, the
Right.
way we are. So, it's like when you're starting out comedy, you're doing some bottom hanging jokes and stuff like
Right.
that. And, there were some naughty jokes that I was
Some
doing,
raunchy jokes. That's okay.
raunchy jokes.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
some raunchy jokes,
Right.
and then I told the audience, I was like, "Oh, my mom's here with me," and people were horrified. And they were like, why are you saying this in front of your mom? And
Yeah.
then I was like, language barrier is a beautiful thing.
She won't know what this is.
She
No,
has no idea what I'm talking about.
it's funny. I've been to some of Maz's stuff, and he likes to translate back and forth, sometimes to make fun of it. But like you say, he doesn't spend all the time being
Right.
Iranian,
That's right.
and I think you mentioned your journey. Do you feel you've reached kind of that comfort zone, or are you still on your journey to self-identify as a multicultural person and comedian? Are you done, or are you still where to go?
You mean done as in, you mean as an artist, like, or as a human being? Like, what do you
No, no.
mean?
As you mentioned that you've kind of going through this journey to identify who am I here? Am I a Iranian American, a Hindi American? What, or have you settled that you're an American and you're doing this comedy? That's your life. I'm just trying to figure out if you've settled on your cultural journey, or you're still trying to evolve in a way
No,
that.
I feel like I've been through my own spiritual journey and I continue to walk that spiritual path. So for me, I think from a pretty young age, even though I went through all those like identity crises, and it's like, where do I belong? What culture do I belong to? What am I more of? Am I American? Am I this?
Right,
What am I more of? And I feel like I've definitely made peace with the fact that, for me, it's about who I am and being connected to that. So that means the most to me more than anything. And then everything else is just what you want to identify yourself as,
right,
right?
right,
But I feel for me, like the number one thing is, as long as I'm, in alignment with myself when it comes to my own spirituality and my own values, then everything else is secondary to that.
right. No, thank you for that, because that's what I wanted to kind of profile your confidence and your journey for other young women that want to break their bonds, whatever their expectations are. It may be comedy in one way, it may be something else, whatever. I don't want to necessarily fan a new revolution among women to go and fight against their parents. But I can tell you from my personal journey and my brothers, it's always tough
Yes.
to say, you know what, thanks for bringing me here.
Yeah.
Thanks for the life I have, but that's
Yes.
not who I want to be.
Right.
The person that you want me to be is not who I want to be.
That's correct.
And the arts and comedy and movies and entertainment, it's so much in this world. And this, thank you, parents, for bringing me here. But I want to experiment with all this new stuff that I would never be able to do
That's
in
right.
my homeland, right? And especially in this currently, so many artists in Iran and the Middle East who are suppressed and oppressed in so many different levels, women
Yeah.
especially. I
Yeah.
feel like the ones that have made it out have a
Mhm.
responsibility
Yeah.
to not stay bound by the chains that they left behind.
That's
So
right.
you should spread your wings and go as far as you want and be whoever you want. at least you will have fans and you will have admirers, and you will inspire the next generation. I feel, especially women that want to get into comedy or entertainment, to say, look, she can do it. She's one of us.
Right.
If she
Sure,
can do it,
for
I
sure.
can do it.
For sure. I mean, like for us, when we were growing up, we went to high school in Jersey City. So for us, we were surrounded by, I didn't grow up with white America. I grew up with Black and Latino America. That's the
Mm,
America I grew up with.
mm,
So for me, the lens was a little different because I looked up to Black and Latino artists, like that's what I had access to, and that's how I saw the world. So as we got older, then more and more we began to see people like ourselves, right, on stage to be like, oh, that's possible, oh, that's doable, or oh, that's acceptable. And I feel like, but it also just goes back to like, who are you? Like, have you done the work on yourself? Do you continue to do the work, right? Because we're all a work in progress. Am I this amazing finished product? Far from it. Gosh, I am very much in progress. I'm very much evolving as a human being, very much evolving as an artist. For me, one of the biggest thing I also learned about myself is that I want to get into producing, and that's how why I got into producing. I have my show Minority Reports that I started off 9 years ago at the Comedy Store. That's also a podcast. That's also now a TV show that we're working on. But Minority Reports, we did Persian Girls Night Out and at UCLA, and that was the first show of its kind that we did. I believe it was 2018 or 2019. Gosh, it feels like forever, but it was the first show of its kind. And we had Navid Nagaban come, and we had Tehran hosted it, and we had all Persian female comics, and it was just fantastic to have something like that, to be able to showcase where women of this diaspora that never have had an opportunity or never been under the same roof to kind of showcase their talent, and for women to be shown in that kind of light, to be like, hey, we have some very talented, hilarious Iranian comedians that deserve a platform. And I really wanted to do that for all of us. So I feel like along that kind of journey, you discover things about yourself. And also the fact that I launched my company, Web3 is a Joke, a little over a year ago. So now it's just like, oh, okay, so you're not just doing comedy. Now you're also involved in the Web3 and the crypto world. It's like, well, yes, we're multifaceted human beings, right? And it goes back to what you were saying, which is, I don't want to be the person you want me to be. I want to be the person that I want to be. So this is the person that I want to be. I'm a multidimensional person that wants to explore different aspects of myself and what my interests are, and really put that forward.
Well, the person that you are is an amazing person.
Oh,
So lucky to have you here. Such an inspiration, I feel, to young women, Iranian, Middle Eastern, it doesn't matter, young women everywhere, to break into the world and to be who they are. I think you'll have a happier world if
yes.
everyone is allowed to be who they want to be and express themselves how they want to express themselves, especially in this genre and in this time in society. So Mona Shaikh, thank you so much. MonaShaikh.com is the website, and she mentioned you mentioned all the great stuff you're into.
Yes.
This is fantastic. Please go check out your show. I think when is your next show coming up in LA
So
area?
so the next one we're doing is so Web3 is a Joke. Like I mentioned, we do comedy roasts of all things Web3. We first year we launched 3 events, and this year we're doing 12 events. We quadrupled in 1 year for the demand that we have. So our next big event is on Thursday, April 11th at the Expert Dojo in Santa Monica. And you can go to web3isajoke.io, and you can find us on Instagram and Twitter, and you can go to our website and you can see all our shows that are listed. We're going to be in Dubai this year. We're going to be at Bitcoin Nashville this year. So it's also a nice moment when among a sea of white boys, then this like brown
Yeah.
chick shows up, and you're like, what's going on? What is she doing? So
Fantastic.
comic, and she does that. Like, what is she doing? So it's nice to go out and represent.
I love it. I love it. Mona Shaikh, thank you so much for joining us. Good
Thank
luck
you.
in your shows. Please come back to see us soon.
Will do. Thank you.